Hi there folks, we'll be starting leek seeds today. Today I have a simple and interesting task. Those here are the flower heads of the leeks which we left to seed last summer. So in 2021 we used similar heads and gathered the seeds and planted some seeds, and then we produced leek plants out of those, and then we saved them in the basement over winter. And then in 2022, the next year, we planted the leek plants back into the soil, and they grew and produced seed. Those seed heads, they were ripe in late summer, early autumn, and we harvested them whole because there was a week of rain forecasted and I didn't want them to get moldy. So we just decided to store them like that for the winter, and we store them in our dry, cold attic. And now it's time to reuse the seeds in order to grow the new generation of seedlings. This leeks is maybe 4 or 5 generations of saved seed, so we are on our way to cultivating a special variety, a landrace variety for our garden and our region, which will be accustomed to the conditions which we have here, climatic and soil conditions as well. So you can see that when I'm rubbing the seed pods between my fingers, the seeds are falling off. And this is the way in which I'll be very simply putting them in the soil. Just rubbing my fingers and letting the seeds drop into the soil, digging them in and waiting them to germinate. Right here we have a small jar of very similar seeds. That's because they're cousins. This is onion seed, and they're stored in the same way in the seed pots, which is the easiest and quickest way to harvest them and store them if they're sufficiently dry. And I'll be planting those as well. And finally, I have a bit of I think it's 3-year-old kale seeds. This is of course our own harvested seed. It's from a variety which I can't remember the name of, but it's third or fourth generation from our garden, so it's a type of curly kale, but it's no longer the original variety because I'm certain that it has been cross-pollinated. We usually grow several varieties of kale here, so it's important to allow cross-pollination to keep the genetic diversity going strong. It might be a bit early to start those seeds, but the reason I'm starting them now is because the onions and the alliums in general, they don't have any problem germinating in lower temperatures, and they can start growing and developing well before it's truly spring. And even though the nights are close to zero right now, this won't be a problem for the alliums to germinate. And if we start earlier, we'll have stronger plants by May, when we'll be digging out the seedlings and planting them out in the garden. So this is what I'm doing. Very simply, the very nice watered seedling bed here from the rain yesterday. I'm just making a shallow indentation right here, just single line. And then I'm just sprinkling the seeds along with the seed pods, rubbing them with my fingers. You don't have to worry about planting the leeks and onions and shallots and allium seeds in general too densely, because the baby plants themselves are rather thin, and they don't mind growing in close proximity at all. You can easily have a few hundred plants growing in such small space. We don't aim to produce a certain amount of leaf plants. It's basically whatever we can grow, we plant in the garden, and if a single bed is not enough, we just interplant with some other stuff we have growing. The leeks is, at least in our location and our garden, is very unpretentious. It doesn't take much room, and it can grow alongside lots of other plants, including late beans, late peas, and more. Now I'm gently putting the soil on top. I don't want to be pressing too firmly. Just a gentle tap, and that's the leeks done. Now I'll make another smaller line here to plant the kale seeds. You can see I'm not labeling anything, and that's one of my strategies to keep things separated. So if I'm planting the leeks here, I'm not putting the onions next to them to avoid the chance of mix-up. And even if I forget, okay, I'll have this video, but even if I didn't have the video, I can still remember that this side was the leeks, and the onions I'll put in the other side of the lettuce, so to lower the chances of mixing things up. And I'm just sprinkling some curly kale seeds here. Again, I'm gently covering them. The baby lettuce will continue living here. And now I make another one. A space for onions. Usually onions here are grown mostly from sets, those tiny baby onions which you buy and plant and you get the bigger heads of onions. However, we found that the onions we grow from seed grow to a very nice size. They also have a nice genetic diversity, and more importantly, we don't have to buy the onion sets. Also, it's easier to produce hundreds of onions coming from a single onion seed head without any problem, and for that you have to spend quite a bit of money on the onion sets as well. The only problem would be if you want to grow a certain variety, a specific variety of onion, in which case you're better off getting some small amount of onion sets and then growing those and collecting seeds in isolation, which means bagging the seed head to avoid cross-pollination. Then you're good to go. Okay, so you can see how in just a couple of minutes I managed to prep those seedlings. Now I will leave that as an indentation here to mark the end of the seeded space. Tap that in gently, and we'll hope for the best. So that's it for now, and I'll see you tomorrow.